other day.
In the neighborhood.
No, Gomez told me when he was watering the grass today.
You ready?
Oh,
Gomez.
flowers, buddy,
Y'all
flowers.
ready? Who is Gomez?
On the grass.
We recording, folks. Good evening, everyone. I now call to order this special called meeting on Wednesday, September the 6th, at 7 p.m. in our council chambers. And Mr. Manager, you have a public hearing scheduled?
I am going to ask that we suspend the public hearing simply because the appropriation that we have, based on a conversation with Jackie and with Ann Heritage Schauber, who is on vacation at this time, it is not complete. And we had given a deadline for having it complete, and I do not believe this is a complete number. We just would have to hold a public hearing later on. But I don't think we're in a position to fully recommend the $302,000 appropriation that is before you. And I would ask that we can suspend the public hearing, and we will hold it at a later date. We just need to get this done before the audit, so we're not time constrained, but we had an expectation we'd be ready tonight, and I don't think we're.
Do you need,
For our consultant to have this stuff ready so that we could not spend.
It certainly would have,
For the paper.
it would have been preferable, yes, sir.
yeah, you have a very
Two
legitimate
ads in
gripe.
paper.
And I'm reading the code.
Someone said,
You need an action for council to suspend this?
Yes, just
Council, you've heard the
Yes, sir.
manager's request. Is there a motion to suspend this public hearing?
So moved.
Mr. Gormus moves, Mr. Almond second. All those favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries 6-0. No, what? No. 5,
You only asked for
One.
ayes.
okay, is
I
there any opposed?
I vote no.
Okay, I got it, 5-1, motion carries 5-1. Business license penalties, Mr. Manager, you wanna turn that over to our attorney?
Pursuant to town council's request, I believe in the June meeting, I compiled a list of, the different penalties that the town could impose regarding yes, I've got it right here, yep. Regarding the license taxes and the different remedies that it could have. And then in addition to that, we also have the other penalties that we could use for collecting an outstanding tax as well. So I have highlighted those. Pursuant to the current code, it says that the town can levy a penalty of $10 or 10%, whichever is greater, and it can charge interest at 10% a year until paid. And I attached the code sections for that. And then also, the license tax is an outstanding tax, and so there are different things that the treasurer can do as well, such as attaching and selling personal property, enacting treasurer's liens, which is similar to a garnishment, except that you don't have to necessarily go through the court.
Our bills or the license form already says the 10% penalty, I believe. It's already stated in that form.
Yes, yeah. And it should be known, though, technically it could be a penalty of $10 or 10%, whichever is greater. So I don't think there would really be an occasion where $10 would be greater than 10%. But, and then also, we may want to add too that the town can charge 10% per year at the bottom of the form. And then it also gives, different remedies that the town can enact as well for collecting taxes. And I've set those forward. Most of those are to recover the money taxes that are owed. And so most of these are kind of civil in nature, if you will. Also, I wanted to note at the bottom here that it does say that Virginia State Code does make it unlawful to operate a business without a license. And I cited the code section on here. And it does allow for the adoption of an ordinance that would require that no business license, can be obtained until there have been satisfactory evidence of other things that can be done as well. So I would recommend that the town adopt that ordinance. And then also, I would also recommend that the town adopt other ordinances that set forth the penalties for operating a business without a license. So right now, what we have is we have a situation where we have specific penalties for unpaid licenses, but then if you see, we can take it one step further and also adopt ordinances that set forth the penalties for operating a business without a license. And so I gave you all some examples of that with the town of Alexandria, because it does make a distinction between the two, you know, unpaid license versus operating without a license.
That would mean you've never got one to start with, basically.
Correct. And then I also attached a draft ordinance for the town to adopt regarding making sure everything else is paid, all of the obligations for a business is paid. And that's on the last page of my memo where it says recommended ordinance. And it's entitled, an ordinance requiring that all delinquent taxes are paid prior to the issuance of the business license.
Do you think, we need to do a public hearing
Yes.
for the added?
You don't have to if you're gonna adopt an ordinance. Isn't that correct?
You do,
Well,
a town does not have to. I generally advise that the town have a county does require a public hearing. Technically, a town does not require a public hearing, but I always advise all of my towns to have a public hearing for the public input. And I know that the town of Blackstone specifically has a requirement that you all would have to vote to request a public hearing prior to it being advertised.
Okay, so forgive me, I'm bouncing all around looking at the agenda, trying to run this meeting and listen to this too. Are you recommending three ordinances?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, the first I am recommending is straightforward. That's on the very last page, and it says recommended ordinance, and I've already set forth exactly what needs to be in there.
Okay, but that's not an example ordinance, so this is,
Well,
am I
looking at-
correct?
Looking at the, you've got our Blackstone Town Code excerpt, that's already in there.
Right.
And you got the example from Alexandria, but then I see section 9112, 9113, 9114. These seem like they're, probably need to be added to our,
Is that what you're saying?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And then the last one is the recommended ordinance that is on the back.
yeah.
Which is, that one is one that
Okay.
just brings us into conformity with the state code. So that's kind of the easier one.
We're just putting it out there that this is the guideline that we're going to do,
Correct.
because it's not currently stated in ours.
Correct. Well, some of it is stated, but then the part that is not stated is the part that where it sets forth the penalty for continuing the business without a new license, and that's section 9-1-13. This is an example from Alexandria, Virginia, but I thought it was a good example of what we needed. And then also the penalty for beginning a business without a license.
What I'd really like to do is I would like a motion and a second, and then have discussion and get some idea. So, I mean, you seem to be very active in this conversation.
Yeah, I-
Could you craft a motion?
I move that we advertise for public hearing to add the ordinances from the sections, state code of 9112, 9113, 9114, 9115, and then recommend ordinance on the back from Tessie herself.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, to advertise for the public hearing and to, augment our code with the references from Mr. Nash and also add an ordinance that's crafted in the back.
Correct.
And hold on just a second. Yes, ma'am.
So you also have 9-1.5,
Yeah.
which you did not include, Eric, so I just wanna make sure you want
I'll
that one.
amend it
Yes.
to include that.
Okay, so the motion includes that, and who was the second?
I second.
Okay.
I'd like
And
to
now,
make I'd like to make a secondary motion.
All right, hold on just a minute. Mr. Gormas has the floor.
So does the motion cover all of the examples from Alexandria?
Yes.
All of it's state code is where it's
Yeah,
flowing from.
I understand, that's why I just wanna make sure it's clear that your motion covers all the examples that are in there from Alexandria.
Yeah. And with the thought that section 9-1-12 will actually just kind of supplement what we already have in terms of the failure to pay, but just making sure we have everything in there. And then, section 9-1-13 through 15 are new ordinances that would be adopted.
13 through 15.
Correct, yes, but 12 will be something to supplement it. So I'll make sure that all of the ordinances are clearly written out and ready to go well before the public hearing.
Mr. Page, you have the floor.
Yeah, so I just make a motion that, before we send the public hearing, that, we send this over for review to the Health and Ordinance Committee. I haven't had a lot of time to review it, and I don't think the committee has. They may have other ideas they wanna add into it. For instance, I'm looking here, and I see, continuing business is a civil penalty, but starting business is a misdemeanor. So if you start a business and then you
Okay.
don't renew.
Mr. Page, you've made a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry,
It's
that's
my
the
turn-
motion.
It's my time to find
I
if we have a
apologize,
second.
go ahead.
Okay, so Mr. Page has moved it is postponed and that, this is sent to Health and Ordinance Committee. Is there a second? Hearing none, that motion fails. Now we'll return back to the original motion. And Mr. Nash, you made the motion. I'll let you have any discussion that you would like to share?
I mean, the only reason nothing against going to committee, but it's just state code that I
Right.
figured,
Okay.
I trust our attorney that the state code is what we should follow by.
Yeah,
Any,
and to clarify, the ones that begin with the 9-1-12 through 15, those are examples that I use from Alexandria, but, they do, mirror the
So
state.
they're not state code though, they're from another locality.
Correct, yes.
And I'm
they're
not saying there's
water-covered
anything
from there.
wrong with them, they just haven't been reviewed and discussed. Ideas haven't been exchanged.
is there any other members that would like to weigh in on the motion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, just for failure to go through committee.
6-1, this passed. Next item on the agenda is the culvert policy. Which one, Mr. Normick, are you gonna handle that, or
I think Tessie's right here.
Tessie, you ready to go?
Sure, yes, I am. We have talked about this a little bit before, with regards to whether or not it is legal or whether it follows the rule to require a 2/3 vote, for the council, for an appeal to council regarding the culvert cost. And so based on the code, I think that it would comply if we listed in the culvert policy that anything that would cost over $10,000 would require a 2/3 vote, because that's part of the town charter. I would also note that it says in here that, and this is 15.21428, so part of the state code says if it's anything over $500, then that would just be a simple majority vote. So my advice would be to delineate between anything, over $10,000 could require a 2/3 vote. I don't think that you can do it for anything under $10,000.
And, not to keep talking about it, but my thoughts were, if council set a policy that you had to have the 2/3 majority, and let's say you had 4 councilmen that were passionate about it, those 4 councilmen could make a motion, and the 4-3 would rule that you eliminate the policy and you're back to it again. So it seemed, so I'm in agreement. I'm just saying,
Right.
I mean, we
I
did,
get
we
that.
did, vote in favor of the 2/3 for any work being done on private property back in March.
well, I don't, according to her, if it's not over $10,000, that's not neat and in order. Is that correct?
Correct.
I don't remember.
There was a lot of discussion about whether or not to, and what it would take, and what it should take to make it happen. And
That was in
2/3
the May,
2/3 vote was a,
that was in the May meeting, but
what it mean.
I thought we argued about sending it over to the attorney.
That was my understanding,
I
that
think we got close and then we.
we got close and
Yeah.
decided it'd be best if we, and that's what we're hearing now, that your counsel to us would be is to adhere to the state code on the $10,000 and just use the simple majority for other expenditures under $10,000.
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
all right, everybody capiche that?
Me and the mayor talked, I just want clarification on this because we keep bringing this up. I thought this policy was not just about money, but it was that it would require 2/3 vote to,
Go on, private.
to even approve.
Yeah, that was what the
That's-
motion
I
was,
didn't think it was for money. I
and that's
thought
what we
it was-
voted on.
So I just want clarification on the
Yeah,
policy.
well,
so if you
I don't
follow
think,
it-
I don't think there's any circumstance that we can require a 2/3 vote unless it's passing an ordinance, raising taxes, or over $10,000. Is that correct?
Correct,
Okay.
raising taxes pursuant to state code and then appropriations over $10,000, and that's pursuant to our GM charter.
The ordinances though, is that 4-3 or is that a majority vote too?
That's just a simple.
Okay, so it's just the $10,000 and appropriating, raising taxes. Okay,
But every request will still come to council.
yeah, absolutely.
correct.
And it will be acted on a 4-3 basis.
Okay, and then, so that, now, what I haven't read here, I put the policy notes, so where it says all appeals in writing may come before council and will require 2/3 vote for approval to spend money. Is
That,
what
you need
y'all
to scratch
understand?
that. That is not proper.
Okay, so all appeals in writing may come before council.
Right.
Will
And then
require
period.
simple
majority
majority
vote.
unless over $10,000,
$10,000.
require
Right.
2/3.
Yeah.
We definitely
Only
want
time the 2/3 can apply is when there's $10,000 or more.
So could I just leave it as all appeals in writing may come before council
Correct.
and then cut the rest of it off?
Yes.
So we're not adding anything
Right.
else to it?
Well, the
And see-
charter already said 2/3 vote on, so whether you wanna include it in the Culver policy or not.
But I'm reading this as all appeals in writing may come before council, and that's if you said no, then they're coming to council to see if they can get approval for somebody to do work like this. That's what I'm reading.
I think Philip's smart enough that pretty much everything's gonna come to council right now when it's on private property.
So if someone says, Philip, can you do our ditch? And you say no, and then they can appeal to council. So that's what I'm reading that as, not money, but saying council,
But
yes,
it-
we will go
it's
on
not
the ditch,
2/3
or we
vote,
will
though.
not, so.
And while I have the attorney here, I wanna make sure I'm clear. Let's just say tonight that we were going to raise taxes.
Yes.
And we had a quorum of 4. We can't vote. It's two-thirds of the elected members. Is that, is what I read. So can you check on that? So I know going forward, if we only have 4 here, then we can't appropriate over 10 grand and,
Hold on one second.
Alright, so am I taking the red part out while she's looking? So we'll just say all appeals in writing may come before council. Period.
correct?
So this says 15.2-1427G says in penal, no tax can be imposed except by a 2/3 vote of the council members.
Yep. So that, I was right. So if we have 4,
Now, members present.
not members present, but members.
The quorum, right?
No,
should be the-
no.
Gotta do,
We have to have 5 members to raise taxes.
so even if you've got 6 people here, you still gotta have 5.
Okay. Okay, now, this policy in front of us, is this something that we're ready to vote on, or now that we have the clarity of the 2/3, or we're gonna take it up tonight, council, or we're gonna talk about it at our regularly scheduled meeting?
It was approved with the trying to just figure out the 2/3, so
Okay.
we approved it already.
All right, so help me out with make sure I'm getting this right. This is approved, or
Yes.
does it need to be reapproved, or?
There's a few issues I have in here. I mean, can we talk about it at the work session? I think we can iron it out.
We're in the
There's
work
just one
session.
section I got a problem with, that's all.
I have no
I think
problem.
there's some more information discussed, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Miller?
Okay, so on this problem right here, right? Are we gonna go ahead and set up a committee for this culvert?
Culverts?
Yes.
No, I'm gonna put that on the agenda for the 19th meeting. It's not on the agenda, we're not gonna talk
Okay,
about
okay,
adding any
okay,
more
okay,
committees
okay.
tonight.
Okay.
So
If you don't
I-
mind.
I take these corrections out, I send it to you all, and then we will approve it at the September 19th or whatever, 18th meeting, is that good? Just so we all know what we're voting on, since I'm scratching.
Let's
some.
do that, and we'll have a discussion then. if you got problems with
Is
it.
that good, September 18th?
May I ask a question? Are we planning on having the work session before then?
We're having a work session now.
Says here scheduled work session on the agenda.
Well, that is something that we're gonna do for Philip to update everyone. I mean, we can add something like that. I intend to have this policy in the council package on the 19th, am I correct? That, as an agenda item that we vote on.
18th.
Okay, and if you have any problems then, you know, you can certainly communicate them to me, and I'll see to it the council has it, or you can discuss it at the meeting, okay? But I don't think everybody's ready to act on this tonight.
I think just to set the work session date.
My concern is I have a scheduling error and I won't be here the next meeting. And if you guys put it on that agenda, obviously you can do what you want and probably give you information I probably shouldn't yet, but, I mean, if you wanna pass it, I won't be here, but I would like to, you know, at least discuss, the issue that I have.
Well, if we're not gonna take it up tonight, I don't know why we would discuss it.
Right,
Doesn't make sense
Well,
to
no,
me.
he's saying at the next meeting,
Then-
he's not gonna be here.
Okay.
I won't be here.
Okay,
Can we
well,
move-
let's see, if
And
y'all
I'm fine
want,
if we put it off until October. It's not like this is a pressing
issue.
But
issue.
that's what I'm asking. Can we do
I
that?
think
or-
it's-
Certainly, all you have to do is
Absolutely.
ask. I'll be glad to put it on the October agenda. That's fine.
Thank you.
October agenda, please. Anything else on the culvert policy? All right, so, Mr. Manager, if you'll take the floor now, and, let's talk about the work session, and we've kinda kicked it around, and what I understand is there's difficulty to do it during the business week, and there's difficulty doing it on the weekends. And my weekends are slammed up until after Christmas with supporting my girls in their cheerleading, two different universities. So I understand that, but, so explain to us what you'd like to get accomplished, and then I'll add what I want to get accomplished, and then we need to decide when and where we're gonna have this, okay?
The purpose that I had asked for us to sit down really was as a result of a question that Mr. Gorman's asked in one of our meetings. You keep throwing these big numbers around, and we keep hearing about this and resolutions for 3 million and all. I'd like to get that list in front of you. I have it almost done. There's a couple things that were repeated in the spreadsheet, so I need to actually reduce it. But I'm ready to go. And what I want to do is sit down with you guys and say, this is what you're facing over the next 5-10 years.
And prioritize it or
And-
just review?
Prioritize, give you the prioritizations as staff. And I rely on Andre. What's the worst pipe you got? Which one's first, which one's second, which one's third?
You need to do this.
I can do it in 30 minutes, depending on how many questions there are. What? What?
I was thinking of a 2-hour meeting,
Perfect.
okay? Possibly if we can work it out, I'd like to do it in a round table. If we're not if we're not comfortable having a meeting that's not videotaped, then we could ask the county, can we use the EOC? But I think a good round table discussion amongst us with nothing but a briefing from you. And we can ask questions in a casual environment. And, I think it would be wonderful. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have the one-on-one time with you, and that everybody would be in a spirit of, I'm not afraid to ask a question, and get on board, because we're facing some pretty significant challenges down the road.
We're not in crisis, but
Exactly.
we've got to start doing some planning to start chipping away at some old sewer lines and water lines. And
I'll be down in the building station.
Well, can you wanna do it here, or would you
I
like?
don't care either
I mean, it's not a requirement that it be videoed, is it?
I don't
Not
know.
a-
Be open
not
to
required.
public.
It'd be open to the public, but that's just the ideal place to have it, to me. It's, you got a table where we're all together.
Where at?
Police department.
they've got a
conference.
conference room in the back there.
And there's room for the public in there too, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If we're having a work session for us to build as a group and to learn, why do the public has to come? Because we're trying to figure our stuff out, seeing where we want to go as a team.
I got you.
And then the public is looking at us.
I think the state code does state that if you're talking town business
I
and
just
there's more than a
wanted to know.
certain number of you present, it has to be an
Consider it.
advertised public meeting.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a question and answer period, right?
No, I think
this
that would be the
wouldn't
mayor's.
So,
choice.
a lot of these special called meetings and, continued meetings, the people in the audience are just that, they're audience. They, I want them at a regularly scheduled meeting, I want them to come, they have 2 opportunities to speak. But, if we're gonna have 2 hours and you have all this data, then, we just need to get through it and then my suggestion would be to the public would be to talk to you, me, or their favorite council member.
We'll
and
post the
ask
stuff
questions.
on
One of the
Facebook and
campaign
website.
promises I made is that if we get a question, that if we can't answer on the spot, then we'll be back prompt and courteous with an answer.
And, you know, one of the most pending projects is in Loyette's district with this Taylor Bottom thing that we've talking back and forth. And y'all need to go in that eyes wide open of what street improvements are gonna cost, water and sewer, all that kind of stuff. So, I think it's important to do this. If you can't do it on a weekend, I get it. And I love the deer hunt, so my Saturdays are precious as well.
If you're gonna
If you can do it in the
if you're
evening.
gonna do it in 2 hours,
Oh, yeah.
let's just do it the first Wednesday of October, okay? We've set that date aside. Is there anybody that knows that have an objection to the first Wednesday in October?
Is it Wednesday?
Is it Wednesday?
No, we said Wednesdays, but we can do whatever you want.
And just limit it to 2 hours and just say, guys, we're gonna pull the plug on this thing after 2 hours, so you don't extend. If it's less, it's less. And you wanna do that in the evening, Ben?
Yes, I think, you know, we have a couple people that work after
Right.
hours, and right now, you know, I'm a little short-handed and my hours are tough too.
Okay.
But 7 to 9, we can do that.
You okay with that?
On the
Folks?
fourth,
Are y'all?
October
agreeable
4th.
with that?
I can do the fourth.
Yes.
Would y'all wanna go a little earlier, or you wanna,
That's up to her out of town. I mean, I'm fine with 6, but if Carolyn
fine.
needs
I'll
6,
be fine too, because I'm losing
what
the
time is it?
second job
Your
this
time
month.
is best for me.
Where's that?
I'm a nurse and administrative stuff happens, but let's aim for 6, cause I don't wanna be
I'd
here
rather
all
get out
night.
of here early.
Yes,
Yeah.
6 will be fine.
And
I
then
won't
9
have to
o'clock,
work
8
my
o'clock,
second
we
job
out,
anymore.
cause I'm
Oh, no,
out.
that's fine.
We're
Absolutely.
not gonna keep going over.
All right.
The fourth at 6
I
p.m.
concur.
Would y'all like a box lunch, a box dinner?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, we'll talk to y'all about your dietary restrictions, but, you know, maybe club sandwich or salad or whatever you
I'll
like
get
to
you
have.
my list.
Huh?
I'll get you my list.
Oh, my
Can only eat
goodness,
steak.
what have I got myself into?
Oh, you said restrictions. You didn't say
I'm gonna be out here grilling tomahawk steaks is what it sounds like. Okay, October 4th, and, October 4th at 6 PM in the police department's, conference room. And Madam Clerk, would you, work that out with the chief? Okay, excellent, thank you for that. The next thing we have is, you have in your packet this evening a resolution, that Madam Clerk put together for, our beloved fire chief. Get y'all's
Police
opinion.
chief.
Police chief.
Police chief. I told you I'm trying to do 2 things at one time here.
And there's 2 resolutions in there.
2 resolutions. I'll give you the floor, Madam Clerk.
Detective Murphy, so the one in the police department always usually does one from within and has all of council sign it, which is this one that's in your packet right here. Detective Murphy wrote this one for Chief, and we like to adopt them in one night and then present them on an actual night when everybody has their signatures on there.
So, excuse me, I'm just gonna ask a stupid question. Do we need both? Cause this looks amazingly outstanding to me.
If you wanna do this one and then if you wanna just do the one,
Well, I mean, we're all signing it. You know,
and that's perfectly fine. This one was the one that I had done that you and I had looked over.
No offense, but the police department one looks
I didn't
Well-
wanna say it, but it does.
well,
Sam
Sam has
Let the record reflect.
made a terrible mistake.
So then this was the one we would put on a plaque.
Yeah,
This
that's
one was
my
smaller,
thought.
might fit better on a plaque, but I think you can fit this on a plaque as well. That's perfectly fine, whatever y'all wanna do. You don't need both of them if you don't want it.
Well, I just gotta tell you, Sam's made a big mistake, cause if I need a resolution, I'm gonna find
Your
it.
go-to, Gavin, it looks
My
like.
go-to resolution guy. Look, this is, what's the pleasure of council on these resolutions?
I make a move, we accept these resolutions.
Just the one or the 2? Just this one?
Just one.
The one that was prepared by,
This one, so we're all on
Sergeant,
the same page.
The golden one.
Yeah,
the one that was prepared by Sergeant Murphy, okay?
detective.
Sergeant Detective Murphy, okay? Yes, yes. Mr. Miller has moved and Mr. Allman has seconded that the town council adopts this resolution, has it framed appropriately and on a plaque, and be presented to the police department for their display. Is any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0 to make this happen with this plaque. Very good. Outstanding. Next on the agenda is help me out.
Town manager report.
Town manager report.
And I'm gonna assume this is a report on county stuff.
Okay, now I will tell you this, Philip, we do have a, closed session tonight for personnel, town attorney, and for council. And anything that you feel, you know, gray area, you can report that
I'll be there in
during the, closed session.
anything to it.
Go
All
ahead.
right, for those of you who have may or may not watched the YouTube video of the Board of Supervisors meeting, I've been going up there now 2 weeks and 2 days. Some glaring, obviously, not right things going on, primarily the bowling alley and the activities that have been going on at the bowling alley. And we met with the owner of the company that intends to buy the bowling alley. There's currently a lease. It's a 2-year lease between the county and this business or this company. Based on the things that have been reported in Facebook and video and all that, and reading the lease, those activities are not permitted at the bowling alley. That is a bowling alley and only a bowling alley. For any other purpose, it has to be specifically approved by the Board of Supervisors, and that is written in the lease. So the days of videotaping and goofiness and private parties and locking the doors are over. Can't do it. No special events are permitted at the bowling alley except those specifically authorized by the Board of Supervisors. And whether they knew that or not, I don't know. Whether it was a willful violation, I don't know. But it was unenforced when the first event started happening. My predecessor up there, the county administrator, didn't address them. And we addressed them last night, and the Board of Supervisors have to approve anything. Now, I think they'll give a little leeway for a kid's birthday party or something like that. But any adult activities that are scheduled till 12 to 2 in the morning, including the currently advertised Halloween party, have to specifically be approved by the Board of Supervisors. So they take a risk in continuing to violate the lease. That's on them. And it'll be presented to the Board of Supervisors, actually presented to the local reuse authority. I had to learn that too. Local reuse authority, which is the Board of Supervisors, but they're the ones that supervise all the county-owned properties out there on Fort Barfoot, including the bowling alley. There's an authority that was formed to govern and supervise and manage those facilities, including the bowling alley. Okay. The gentleman who owns the company was remorseful, indicated he was remorseful. At this point, if requested, I would have to recommend to the Board of Supervisors not to transfer the property based on the violations that have been there between the zoning, building code violations, and the violations of the lease. It's been the Wild West a little bit out there, and it's, I think last night stopped those activities. And it affects Blackstone too, because those people that may be doing things late night, our police officers are going to get involved, or our police officers may have to get called. So I think it's in the general good of the community, Blackstone and the county, that the lease is followed to the letter, and that needs to be done. And the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors was any activity other than public open bowling has to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. Okay. That's where that's at. Hopefully that's going to put that to an end. Hopefully that gentleman will be good to his word. He told me his children at home and would have been embarrassed if they watched that video too. And I said, well, I don't think that needs to be disseminated at your place of business and put on Facebook and social media. All right. Item number 2.
I think the sheriff was very instrumental.
He was instrumental in bringing the gentleman to the table and getting the drunk bowling event Sunday night canceled, because I expressed to the sheriff that it was in his best interest not to do that. And I just hadn't gotten to the Board of Supervisors yet. And Robert apparently has a relationship with him, and that event was canceled. I think they still had a DJ out there of some sort or somebody doing something out there, but the drunk bowling event was canceled. I think there's still some gray area, and I think from what I'm seeing, this Halloween party that's being advertised, clearly some message wasn't sent, because they've started advertising this Halloween party without approval from the Board of Supervisors. So I think that the LRA director, there's actually an employee, needs to communicate that you need to stop advertising these events until approved by the Board of Supervisors. Okay. So we don't want to see a gray area. We want definitive what they can and can't do. But the way it's currently being operated is in violation of the lease.
Mr. Page?
I just had a question. I mean, these town manager reports, was it council's intention to have you report back to us on all the
monthly-
county business you're doing, or was it just the hours that you were working?
No, I think my understanding was that I was to report to you on a monthly basis what I'm doing up there at the county. I can tell you the hours too if you
I
like.
asked him to report because the bowling alley is in such close proximity to the town of Blackstone, and there's been quite a bit of, comments made about it from our constituents, and that's why I asked him to report. Because I'm sure that not everyone on this panel was at the meeting last night or has had the time to view it, so that's why, I've asked the manager to report on this.
Just didn't want him to,
But
you know,
I
feel
believe
like-
Mr. Nash's motion, was that we would get a report every 30 days on his, activities with the with his co-activities with the town and the county.
What would you say your daily or weekly time spent?
I think the first 2 weeks, I think it was 10 hours total and 1 hour of after hours. Very limited. 2 hours in the first 2 weeks of after hours. We had a staff meeting one day. I talked to social services director after hours one day. So 2 hours after hours, but sometimes I have to come back here and do some stuff or whatever, but that's free. Obviously, I had a board meeting last night, so that's probably another 2 hours. I have to go back and look at the exact amount of time. And I did talk to the mayor, and he said, please do not forget to include mileage, because I drive back and forth in the town truck, so it's probably 8 miles back and forth, or each way, so 60 miles.
I
every
just
time
thought
go.
it would be easier for him to use the town vehicle and have the county, reimburse us instead of having to keep 2 different logs and all this kind of stuff. But the county understands that we need to be made whole for all our expenses.
And I did,
All of our town duties are still flowing and
well, Jennifer was picking at me that she wasn't able to find me today, but I had several things going on. But I hope so. In my understanding that everything's going smooth. Pavers are out of here, so I don't have to fool with that. Dan is hooking up the electric stuff over here, cutting grass, and I don't think we have any big projects going on.
speaking of the tar and gravel, whatever it is, in front of Miller's where the new pavement is, so that doesn't get coated?
Well, we only did those side streets that were not given the good pavement. And actually, they missed Hurt Street in your neighborhood. It was marked. You can see the arrows, and the crew left before I got them. But they did get that place next to the old antique mall that had gotten so bad. I did get them to triple shot that. So
Will we start going around with the street sweeper and like at the laundromat? I mean, it's
the beauty, what needs to happen is we need to get traffic on it a little while, and it'll push it all into the gutter
I
pan.
think you didn't distribute as much gravel this year.
This is
It's
better.
Much better. in my
Man,
opinion.
we did college in Brunswick a few years ago.
I
There
couldn't
were
hardly
mountains
walk.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like walking on marbles.
This is a whole lot lighter, and they did a better job. They didn't use too much gravel. They did better. So,
Depending on the decline, I've seen some people do a little sliding.
he said about wrecked his motorcycle one time when I gravel over there. So,
You hit it right with back brakes like ice.
yeah, and it's poor man's asphalt. It is, and it works probably 3, 4, 5 years, and then you got to do it again. But we paved as much as we could when we put the new curb and gutter in, and the side streets that didn't get curb and gutter, those are the ones that got tarred and gravel, primarily in that neighborhood. Okay.
Any other questions for the manager about his report?
And
Mr. Miller?
Don't forget that conversation we had about the stadium, because, you know, I told you.
oh yeah.
Don't forget that.
Mr. Miller had asked me that I think there's some concerns, and I'll tell you about now that I'm in the know what there. The county is going to have a deed prepared from the county to the town for those properties. That property, the transfer from the schools to the county was in the paper today, and Susan Tucker is getting 3 prices from attorneys instead of having to spend $3,000 writing a deed. She's getting prices that should be $350, $400 or something like that. So I know she had 2 prices, but being sensitive to all things Nottaway, we wanted to ask an attorney and crew to give us a price as well.
And you
The
and
thing
I,
about the game,
I get there. Tessie?
go ahead, Tessie.
One question I have, and I'm just not privy to this, you all may have done at the last meeting, has the town voted to accept the?
I think we have. I think we
Okay,
have.
good,
Yes.
just because that's an element that we need
Have we?
Jennifer says no, but I think we have
I
accepted it.
do not. Can we research
Back
that?
in the minutes and there-
Let's get it on the agenda.
Yeah, Susan had asked me if we had not.
Thank you, Tessie, because I don't recall asking for a vote on that. Just while you're talking about the county, Philip and I have a meeting with our new treasurer, on the 19th at 11 o'clock to discuss issuing the dog tags. And I know I'm past the time I asked, but this is the first appointment we could get with her. So,
Back to Mr. Miller's
I'll
commentary.
be able to, I'll be able to report at the meeting what happened at that meeting. Go ahead.
With the school properties, that being said, you're going to very shortly own all the buildings over there. And I think that there's been some interest and requests about being able to or not being able to use certain one of those buildings. I think the Gators have been using that LCCDC, and I think that is going to no longer be the case. And so they've asked, because they want to have meetings, if we can get the upstairs finished quickly in the concession stand.
They
And
would need it by October, and I explained it to them, and we wouldn't have no air conditioning.
we'll have no air conditioner.
And they said they might need a couple tables and chairs.
We've got tables and chairs, but we'll be working on that and see if we can get it wired, T111 siding put up on the sides and some tables up there and make it very basic. We probably won't have finished flooring down or anything.
Is LCCDC not available to be used anymore?
Well, I think once it transfers, I think the lease goes kapooey. It's your building. And you're going to have to decide if you want to sign a lease with them again.
That's at our discretion, so I don't know, why couldn't they use it?
Is that a good topic to take up in this work session on the, would
We don't
we
know,
be
we thought
prepared
about
to
that.
talk about,
I was gonna ask the
Why
same
wouldn't
thing.
you still
Right,
you know,
right.
your plans on what you
I
foresee
mean, we
and,
obviously want Miss
But she-
Yvonne to be in with us.
right.
No, but she's not, the whole thing of how this thing came up, she called them and told them that after September, that they could no longer use it. You understand? Because I think she's getting out of it. I think that's what, I'll have the whole story.
Ultimately, I think I'm not trying to strong arm anybody, but I think ultimately we'll come to this council to say, hey, the Gators can use this building.
Right. I mean, this is,
recorded.
yeah,
Yeah, we just need to wait for the lease.
Yeah, let's wait for the lease, and then I feel like we should
right.
broach the conversation.
Yeah, well, I'd like to hear what, I'd like to hear his vision, and then I'd like to see y'all take that vision and make it yours.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like.
My vision is that LCDC building, it's a good project, but we need to get somebody strong enough if we're gonna open it. And, that's my thing about it.
Just be cautious. The light bills in the wintertime
Right, the
are
light bills and
crazy
all
high.
that,
Yeah.
$1,000 a month, $900 a month, big time.
Any other question for the town manager on his report?
And last item that was of somewhat importance last night, so you know, the county is intending to issue debt in the amount of about $11 million. And I read the documents, I read the financial plan, and I obviously, and the Board of Supervisors clearly disagree with some of the findings about tax increases, things like that are being proposed. But the counties, as you guys too, you guys live in the county, we're on the verge of spending $300,000 for bond counsel services and financial advising services that were absolutely unnecessary. The figures should have been about $50,000-$60,000 at most. And they had $300,000 of cost of issuances included in a Virginia Resources Authority application that the Board of Supervisors did not authorize them to submit. When queried, they said they'd get back to me, and they never did. So we terminated that situation today. And so we'll come back with some other financial advice and not spend $300,000 unnecessarily of y'all's money and people in the county. Couldn't explain to me why it was $300,000. And we told them your exceptional cost of issuance figures are cause us to not continue this marriage. And unfortunate, but we've used them, the town has, and they have never tried to get us like that. But they were getting the county pretty good. And the bond counsel fees were included, and literally, I think the last time we used bond counsel was $20,000. And when we did the USDA closing, and that was complex with an interim piece, a USDA, which always is complex, a refinancing and a closing. And I think we spent $20,000 for the bond counsel portion of it. I'm not making friends, obviously, my first meeting, but I told the Board of Supervisors it was a mistake, and the Board of Supervisors unanimously agreed that we'll come up with a different plan. All right.
Anything else?
Water?
Oh, do you want me to do water while
Well,
we're
you
here?
can. I have no problem with jumping to that.
Oh, apologies.
Yeah,
It's okay.
For those of you,
Actually,
Jake,
point of procedure on that, if you don't mind.
pardon?
So, actually, Jake pointed this out earlier in the year. This was a special called meeting. It was called on August 30th, and it had an agenda. According to our town charter, only items that were called for the special called meeting at the time of it being called can be discussed during the meeting. Late this afternoon, 3 items were added to this agenda tonight, which was committee referral, billboards, report on crew water issues, and even though there was already closed session for town attorney in the original agenda, reason for the called meeting, town manager and council has been added to it. I believe discussing these items on this agenda, according to our charter, as Jake pointed out and was confirmed, would go against our charter.
My understanding is that the agenda can be changed with unanimous attendance to a call meeting.
There's your attorney.
Jesse?
I'm looking right now.
Okay.
Specifically, I'm looking at 15.2-1418, and then I'm gonna turn and look at.
Well, while we've, whatever this is, I'll continue to go on.
Charter and a special called meeting.
I'll continue on.
Go to
So
the metal detector then.
I'll just let you know on water. Received from the mayor, notification that the state budget was gonna include, some statements, that would allow the Department of General Services to run water lines, or have water lines constructed and turned over to another county inside Nottaway County. Both Frank and Tommy Wright responded, and said that they were gonna vote for the budget because they could not individually select or pick out items, and that they would vote for the budget. However, they indicated in their email that there was not funding authorized for the project. It's just more of the same. It's just kind of a greasy situation. I think it's kind of sleazy the way it's been done from 3 years on, and I think that's just a continuance of the sleaziness that Department of General Services have been showing. Whether or not it happens, I don't know. We'll find out. But part of our discussion at the retreat would include costs associated with running water lines and upgrading for anticipation of hooking the town of Crew up. And
Metal detecting?
that's going to be Jennifer.
Address this, but
Yes, but, the very next day, the gentleman that y'all told not to go in the block of Carriage Museum and Sports Tavern brought me stuff from the Carriage. And
That field between the Carriage Museum and
And
the
I
tavern.
told him,
that
yeah,
block.
you said that block, you said it, and you made it specific, so I feel like, we need to designate specific locations, or just don't allow it at all, because people, he didn't listen, and I think he misunderstood, but I told him, I said, that is where we specifically told you you could not.
So our locations, obviously, correct me,
Do you want somebody on the ball fields or the football field? No.
digging holes
No.
in the fire
I don't think you
station,
would want that.
yeah.
Or the medical center where we pay somebody to put fertilizer down, do you want them digging on those properties?
Or the meats.
So you could either say no to all of it, or. give
I'm
some-
gonna refer the whole kit and caboodle to building grounds.
Perfect.
And while I'm at it, I'm gonna refer the billboards and in the shape they're in. Philip pointed this out to me
Point-
today. Go ahead, Philip.
looks bad up on North Main
Point of order, I mean, we're still testing 2.-27 of our town charter.
I'm looking at section 3.4, generally what it says in there is no business may be, and this is at the bottom, this is 3.4B, and it does say no business may be transacted that is except for that which it is called. So that is a little bit different than the language in Virginia Code 15.2-1418 that specifically says no matter that is not specified in the notice unless all are present. It does not have, that exception in there on that regard. And then what other, charter section were you citing to?
2-27.
Okay, that's in ordinance.
Blackstone charter reference special meetings of council. It's Article 2 under town code. Yeah.
That's the town code.
Sorry about that.
not,
Yeah.
The charter. So what it says in the charter, which the charter is on the same, realms as the state code. And then if the state code says something different than the town code, then technically we could go by the town code. What the charter says is no business may be transacted at a special meeting unless it's specifically called in the meeting. What the state code said is pretty much the same thing, except it says unless all are present.
But state code
If we're
also
not- If we're not making motions, does that make it okay, or can we not just talk about it?
says not
No
discussed.
business being transacted is ours, so the first one,
Correct.
so we're not making motions.
Well, I would not, to be on the safe side to make sure we follow the charter, I would not discuss it.
What about the sign-up sheet? What's the purpose of that?
The call sheet.
I think this is specifically talking about special called meetings, so I think the sign-up sheet's more
For
for
special
like
called
a general
meetings, I
meeting.
have to do a call sheet, and then I have to.
Oh,
do a
call
sign-up.
sheet, sorry,
But
I
yes.
said sign-up sheet, I was going.
That is usually not.
So if we haven't signed it, are we locked into?
The meeting was called
Whatever.
on the 30th, and that was sent out to the public, and that's what the public was told that the meeting was for. Can't be changed at the last minute and then signed. I mean,
What letter are you talking about?
I'm sorry?
What letter are you talking about?
It was sent out to the public on August 30th that there'll be a special called meeting. It had the agenda in there and the reason for the called meeting. When you add it late like that in the afternoon, a few hours before the meeting, the public doesn't get notice on those additional items that you want to add to the agenda. And then the question becomes whether it violates our charter to, one, even discuss them, and then number two, whether or not those particular items are reasonable under the circumstance to call an emergency meeting.
But I've been
without
on this
notice.
council for 5 years, including right here where you at. In the same meetings we had, all of it has came up, just like you said. It wasn't on the agenda. So now, my question is, what is the problem with it now?
I mean, we're
You
talking,
been
I
to-
wasn't on council then.
Yeah, but-
I brought the issue up.
We have did this when you have been on council. So why is the issue now?
And I think Jake raised that issue.
Yeah, but he raised the issue, but
found out it was right.
why are we going crazy about it now? That's my question.
Particular part.
Well, because council members and the public should not find out 2 hours before a meeting that new items have been added to it. Unless they're emergency items.
When did you find out?
They're an emergency, this afternoon, when I got the email from Jennifer.
So that's what you hot about.
Right, two hours
That's
ago.
what you mad about.
Can
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Allman has the floor.
I think until we get clarification, which you probably, or I'm not saying any further clarification, but just so we can kind of digest what you just told us.
Yes.
I think whatever items that are not on here,
Just
that-
skip it.
let's skip them and add them to the next agenda.
agenda.
Okay.
When's the latest we can add items? When's the latest can we advertise for a meeting, for a special called meeting?
3 days.
For a special called?
3 days, and you can't include the day of the meeting.
Okay, so for the future, until we clear it up, to be on the safe side, like Tessie was recommending, let's, anything that, if there's any changes to the agenda, and we've already sent it out way beforehand, if we can just send an updated agenda.
Right, as long as it's 4 days.
Yeah, in that 4 days, but, I think, like you said, or I think some clarification on whether it's things being talked about or business being conducted. We kinda need, that's where my confusion is, cause if something's purely informational, then, and we're not taking action on it, and my mind says that's fair, but I wanna make sure that you agree with that as well. It sounds like you're not at the moment,
Yeah.
which is also fine.
Yeah.
What parts of this agenda are
The last three.
of an issue?
Now, the committee referral, the report on,
That was a no-brainer.
Right.
He just did that.
well, again, it's on, went on the agenda, so
I mean, whether
originally.
they were here or not, though, it's still gonna be a committee referral, and they need to vote. on it.
Do we have to do committee referrals in a meeting?
No.
I don't think you do.
So we can scratch that one, that one's fine.
No reason to be on it.
The water report, I would consider that part of the town manager report,
Part
so
of the
I think
town
we're good on
manager
that.
I think that's fine. The issue here is the addition of, the 2 extra, sections of the closed session.
Oh, they gonna
Because
have,
those do take a action, it takes a vote to go into closed session under those.
public ain't gonna be coming to that.
That's
I
right.
understand that.
The
I
public is nowhere involved in that.
I understand that, but they have a right to know that the closed session was gonna happen for which reason.
Well, they gonna know
specifically.
anyway after the meeting anyway.
Well, does
Posting
it,
about it tomorrow.
Shit.
I don't even know what it's about, but does it specify?
I don't
does it say personnel?
That's
Or
right.
do you have to say
Well,
personnel?
the
Tam?
agenda says you have to have, say, personnel and then what department. Here it says personnel, town attorney, and then today it was added town manager and council. Not only did I not have any, barely any notice, but the public didn't have any
Is
notice.
that considered administration?
That's right. I mean, closed session, personnel, town attorney.
One's town attorney, they're different departments. There are 3 different departments. You're adding 2 extra sections.
Well, I
Does it-
tell
you
you
know, does
what.
it- does
Ho,
this
ho, ho,
apply to
ho, ho,
things
ho.
that
I tell you
are
what.
closed
Instead of y'all going out making the agenda, y'all let him make it. That's my
That's
guess.
not gonna happen.
How about you make it, but don't change it 2 hours before? How about that?
We'll be here till 12 o'clock tonight arguing behind something
So my
stupid.
understanding, public notification has to be given when the town council has closed sessions. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct, yes, so what?
To what degree? I mean, really, is it to the point, because the statement's made, she reads the rules about it, what we have to discuss before we start, and we certify that that's what we discussed. So, I don't understand.
I don't
Me
understand that either.
Because
I
I'm
don't-
trying to figure out, if we're not voting on anything, if we're not putting anything in
Conducting
action or
business.
ordinance.
Is that
yeah.
conducting business? What is conducting business? That's what I heard. You said about we couldn't conduct business, okay?
Section 3.4B at the last sentence says, no business may be transacted at a special meeting except that for which it is called. And
So
then,
discussion, is that considered, discussion, is that conduct, is that,
Yeah, that's, I need to
Transaction?
know that. Is that,
I figure
is
that's
something we're just talking about, or are we making votes?
I think
Taking
that
votes.
that would, you know, cause there's plenty of times that there's an agenda and things are discussed like informational items, but there's no vote. So
Right.
I think that that would count as, you know, business being acted if it were discussed.
Okay.
But for an
So-
agenda
so-
though, we don't list any of the, do we list the informational on a typical agenda?
Right.
Just informational, right? Just,
It's just so the public will know what we're discussing in the closed session, right?
well, I think we had a great discussion, and Jake corrected me, and I appreciated that, you know, we didn't wanna come to a special meeting and, number one, not have council to be thoroughly briefed on it, on the issue that was gonna be discussed, and we didn't wanna be making decisions, in my opinion, conducting business on something that we didn't have the proper notice, and that the council didn't have the proper, documentation or the time. And that was the spirit of that. I'm asking you, are we, you know, in this I have a circumstance that has just arisen that I need to talk to council. And it is of utmost importance that I need to talk to the council tonight about. And it's difficult for me in real time to talk to this group because we're all busy. And am I not allowed to brief them something that's come up today with all 7 of us here? That's what I want
What
to
if
know.
all 7, or if you have a vote of all 7?
Which is ridiculous because I'll just continue every meeting until the first Wednesday of the month, okay? I mean, so I would never allow us to do something backwoods, backdoor, make decisions without proper notice. And then I wanna know, can we just have a discussion, information presented to us that I feel is vital to the council, that they know and understand?
I can't believe the mayor's gotta ask you.
Well, I'm just
I
trying
don't
to make
think
sure.
so either, man. Because
Well, I think if you vote,
then it's wrong.
well, no, if you vote to add an item, I believe.
Then that can be done.
To the special call meeting or the closed meeting?
To the closing.
What's a closed meeting?
The public is not here
The
knowing.
public don't know. And the public, why does the public, I'm just gonna say it, why do they need 3 days notice? The public's right there. You know, that 3 days notice came out before that did, I believe.
Somebody may have not wanted to come based looking on this agenda, but they may have come because the town manager or council or report on crew water issues or committee referrals were added to the agenda. Each person may have looked at the original agenda and said, oh, that doesn't concern me, but when things are added to it, hey, now they're gonna talk about the town manager
Well,
and
how we
council,
gonna
that may
know
concern somebody.
What our town manager
I
gonna
don't-
speak about related to the county
don't-
assignment he had now
I don't make the statement.
before the agenda. I don't know how that would.
I just wanna know, I understand, and I'm telling you, I think it's a good policy, we don't add any agenda, any items to the agenda, you know, to discuss or conduct business. I just wanna know, as mayor, can I go in closed session and share with them something that is vital to the town, that is discussed in closed session, so that our position won't be compromised. That's what I wanna know.
Not take any action on it after.
No, no
We're not
action.
gonna vote on it.
No, no
Let's
action.
go to discuss it.